My name's Graham Fagen and we're standing in the Palazzo Fontana, which is the venue for Scotland and Venice this year. I had the fortunate task of coming to Venice about a year ago to select a venue for the exhibition. So I got to see about 12 different places and decided that this place, the Palazzo Fontana on the Grand Canal, was the place that I should use to make my exhibition. What I was intrigued by and excited about was the context that the building provided for my work. It's classic Venice, it's past glories, it's history, it's riches made from trading. All work is a good context for me and the type of work that I do. So the work that I made for the exhibition is all new work. We've got 4 rooms in the Palazzo and a courtyard entrance exit area. So I've made a new work for the courtyard and new work for each of the 4 rooms.
Can you talk us through what each of those works are?
The work at the entrance exit courtyard is a neon sign and it's in green neon and it's using the Italian language. But in English it says, "Come into the garden and forget about the war." And that's the 4th version of that work that I've made. So each time I've made that work, it's been in a different language. So we've had a German one, an English one, a French one, and now here an Italian one. The first room in the Palazzo, I have a large bronze sculpture. It's of a rope tree. I've made many bronze sculptures of plants before, and I've used lots of trees before in my work, and I've also hung people from trees in my work. So the bronze rope tree we've got here at the Palazzo is a kind of combination of all those elements of real plants. The rope is made of coir from coconut. A tree has been formed out of that tool of the rope, and there's a small kind of noose being suggested on the cast. Also, I suppose, like lots of trading towns and port towns, that architectural use of the rope on facades, round windows, round buildings, corners, doorways, you'll see it everywhere in Venice and in many other port towns across the world. So that sense of trade and the symbolism that people have used on facades as trade is evident in the rope tree as well. When you go into the second room, I've got 19 framed drawings that all really start from my teeth. I use my tongue. I'm showing you where my tongue is. I use my tongue to feel my teeth, and then with pencil and paper I draw what my tongue is feeling. And then after that process I use white enamel to fill the teeth drawings, and then I use Indian ink to try and show the place that I understand the form of my teeth to be, but also to perhaps try and show that sense of consciousness as well. So there's 19 of those works framed in the second room.
They look almost like Rorschach prints in a way as well.
Yeah, some are very tight and controlled and dark, and others are much more expressive and expansive, perhaps Rorschach-like. And there's a variety of different kind of aesthetic and different emotion that's been expressed and understood, I think, through those drawings and through those colours especially. If you come through to the next room, the third room, it's this one here, and we've got a sculpture in this room that's behind me. And I suppose the sculpture is a 3-dimensional development from those drawings that are in the second room. We've got clay forms on mild steel frameworks, and the clay heads are really simple. It's me getting the clay and pressing it against my head. On the back of the heads is my teeth in negative. Again, it's clay pressed straight against my teeth. I then fire that negative, then use wet clay on that negative to make a positive of my teeth. And that's what you can see at the front. And the other forms that are in the sculpture are, I've been calling them squeezies, and they quite literally are that. If you get clay and you squeeze clay, that's the shape and form that you get. So it's a very tactile piece, it's a very personal piece in that I've been the form that's created those shapes and forms there. And then different things have happened with the firing of the clay. This one here is just clean clay, so it's just whatever colour the clay is. And then there's others that use platinum and gold lustre to accentuate the shape of the form as well.
And the squeezies, there's almost an echo of as if it was something that you'd bitten into as well.
Yeah, I suppose it's got that element of action, you know, where you've got a body that does something, does an action, and this is evidence of that action. And there's one other work in the show that is about bodies moving things and touching things, and there's an evidence of their action. You can probably hear, it's gone a bit quiet now, but you can probably hear the evidence of their action. So next door in the final room there's a 5-channel audio-video work, which is called The Slave's Lament. And 4 of the channels are audio and video, and the 5th channel is just a stereo sound channel. And on the 4 audio-video channels, you get to see a vocalist, a violin player, a cello player, and a double bass player. And the camera focuses on their movements, their touch, their movements of a bow across a string, or their fingers pressing down on a string. And just like here, the action is seen in 3-dimensional forms. Next door, the action is heard in music, in sound. It was a collaborative work with the composer Sally Beamish, the singer Ghetto Priest, and the producer Adrian Sherwood.
It was in sweet Senegal that my foes did me in fraud, for the land of Virginia, torn from that lovely shore, and must never see it more. And alas, I am weary, weary, oh, torn from that lovely shore, and must never see it more. And alas, I am weary, weary, oh.
This is the second version of The Slave's Lament that I've made. Robert Burns published The Slave's Lament in 1792, and he had booked 3 passages to go and live and work in Jamaica as what white society would call a bookkeeper, but which matter-of-fact society would call a slave overseer on a sugar plantation in Jamaica. Burns never took any of those 3 passages and stayed in Scotland and published his poetry and song. And the song was written or published 4 years before he died, so there's perhaps conjecture that it may be him thinking on the type of position that he might have ended up in and the sort of people that he may have met or worked with in that role. And for me it's an intrigue because when I was growing up in Scotland I was taught that Burns was my cultural heritage, while at the same time I was interested in Jamaican reggae and dub, and I was buying and going to see that music. And I had an idle curiosity as to why the cultural polar opposite, the Jamaican reggae, meant so much more to me and my peer group than my cultural heritage, Robert Burns, which was strange and jarring and hard to understand. But when I discovered that Burns had booked those passages to Jamaica, it gave me perhaps that creative link, as well as making me feel very angry that while I was being taught about my cultural heritage, people forgot to mention the role of the slave trade in it.